Welcome to the Sunday morning family tree workshop of the Jewish Genealogical Society of Montreal. It's nice to see everybody and to welcome you all once more. The rules of the workshop are very simple. You raise your hand and you ask a question. Typically, we like to give the newcomers a first opportunity to ask a question. But I like to start off with just a few comments. In a couple of weeks, Roots Tech is going to be held. And for those of you who are not familiar with Roots Tech, do Google it and learn a little bit about the immense story that Roots Tech is. They have close to 200,000 registrants. And what they've done this year, because it's a virtual conference for the first time, their conference is normally held in Salt Lake City at this time of the year. They've invited people from all over the world with expertise in certain areas to record short videos. I recorded a 15-minute video, a short meaning no longer than 20 minutes. And I did one about 15 minutes on JRI Poland. In addition, there are chat rooms, so you can speak to experts on many different, uh, excuse me, on many different topics. So take a look at it. If there's something that you think that you need a specific expertise that you haven't been able to find, they may very well be an answer for you on Roots Tech. So that being said, um, now Shia and Sue, since we can't see you, we have no way of knowing whether or not you're asking a question. Uh, but if there's something wrong with your camera or your camera you prefer not to be seen, then put your question in the chat room. Um, and so uh, everybody, I suggest bring up the chat at the bottom. You just click on chat so that you can see what the questions are and perhaps put your own questions in there. So let's start with a raised Shia. Good morning. Good morning, Shia. Um, let's start with whoever has a question first. Put up your hand and okay. So Audrey has a question. Audrey, go.
Okay, so I have found a lot of information from the 1911 census in Montreal. Um, my mother had told me she had a younger brother, and I can't find him. And the census has the last name spelled wrong. And I've tried everything, and I can't find a single thing.
So
So
you said your mother had a
had a
brother.
younger brother who she told me was born in 1909 and died in 1913. But he's not on the 1911 census.
Okay, and was this in Montreal?
Yes. So I have called Paperman and the cemetery, and the records don't go. They only go back to 1915.
Okay, so um, let me show you how I'm.
I have all the information that I got, where they lived,
Okay,
and all their names and everything, except
all
for
right.
this missing link.
Now you know that there is an index starting in 1926, a Quebec government index of births of pardon me, marriages and deaths.
Right.
However, there is also an index um, of 1900 to 1925 that was on microfiche, and I will bring that up and let's see whether we can find his
Okay.
death entry there. So let me share screens.
Okay. So I could tell you what I have here from the 1911 census. I have pictures, and this little boy is not in any of the pictures.
Okay, so let's take a look to just see whether we can find him. We'll share screens.
Sure. Thank you.
And let's see if I can remember where it is. No, I have too much stuff on my computer. So what was the family name?
Okay, the name is actually spelled Costom, Costom, but in the 1911 census, it's spelled Coston, like in Nancy.
So we'll put cost. So it's Costom or N, right?
Well, it's actually with an M, but in the census,
Okay.
it's with an N.
So let's see whether.
So what I have here, it says Montreal, St. Louis Ward, page 2.
Okay,
And,
so let's take a look here. This is Yale. I'm going to view.
and I have the numbers. There's 36 numbers on that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see
Okay.
where the C's are. No, that's T. I don't know why that's.
And nobody has a record of him.
Okay, so let's see if we can bring a C up. No. Well, let's bring up Cone. We're sure to find Cone. And no,
I've done a lot of work myself, let me tell you.
okay. Well, if he's not in here, so I'm going to go back and try something else. We'll try COST.
And they lived at 198 St. Elizabeth, which doesn't exist anymore.
Oh,
In
so, what was his given name?
first name Ruby.
Ruby. So there's nothing in this particular folder. Let's try the next one. So no, that's in the next. It's in.
Unless it's under the original name, because he's not on the census, so I'm not sure.
Oh, and when you say the original name, what name are you referring to?
Oh, Costin with an M.
Oh no, I have looked. What I've done just now is I've looked at all the entries from 1900 to 1925, starting with COST. Now we know that spelling can get messed up, so let's try CAST.
Because with the N at the end, it popped up, and I said, "Oh my goodness, they must have." It was hand printed, handwritten.
No, nothing in CAST. So we'll try CUST.
Because I also have a sheet here. It says records with surname Costin, and it's in there.
Now, so it doesn't show up in the deaths um, in, in that time period. So I don't know what the answer is, where to find them. What we have seen in when we were working on indexing the Baron de Hirsch cemetery,
Right.
that there were burials. Pardon me while I just tell my colleague. Okay.
So
So
my mother had told me that they lost his marker in the cemetery and they never found it, but they still would have had a record, right?
and you're talking about the Baron de Hirsch.
Right.
I see. Um, Gary, any thoughts?
I've looked for it. I haven't seen anything. I'm going to try to look in the Baron de Hirsch ledger, the old ledger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll work on that, but I haven't there. I found no stones with anything like that name.
Okay.
Because I have the census, the paper here,
Yeah, but he's not in the census, you said.
his name, but the family's name is there.
I'm sorry.
My grandparents and my mother and her siblings.
Yeah, but you didn't find the boy.
Little boy.
I see. Well, I can't answer that question, so
Right.
we'll move on. The next, I think,
Okay.
Barry, you had your hand up.
I'll mute myself.
Can you hear me, Stanley?
I certainly can. We can all hear you very clearly.
Thank you. So the question that I'm going to bring you now, out of a number of European brick walls, will be the Polish one. And my paternal family's name when they arrived in New York City, Manhattan, is Friedman, Yule Friedman, and Esther. So I have traced them extremely well, I think, while they were in America. I've also followed them forward in time as they settled and moved out across America. My grandmother was the only one who came north to Toronto. So on Yule's naturalization, he lists his wife and all his adult children and says they're all from Warsaw. On Esther's ship's manifest, when she arrives with 3 children, she says that she and the children are from Sachechin. I may be pronouncing it wrong.
Sachechin, yep.
Sachechin. Now, my grandmother, who arrived earlier because she was an elder one of the children, said Niesawawa, and in border crossing, she herself, stating place of birth, said many, many different places.
So wait a second. You said, how did you spell Nishava? Niesawa?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, so I have these variety of places where members of the family claim they have been born. I had presumed that it's Warsaw Gubierna rather than Warsaw City, but I have been frightfully unable to find any records of any of them in any part of Poland.
Okay, so first things first. When I get this kind of question, I usually ask people to provide an ancestral chart or a chart showing each person with approximate age and approximate year of birth, so that we can get some sort of a visual picture of the timeline. I say this to everybody. If you don't have family tree software, write it out by hand. You go online and just put in genealogical documents and you'll get thousands of options. The ones that I use are 2 favorite ancestral charts, one with 4 generations, one with 6. I send it to people, they fill it in, and I'm trying to look at the one that I've just received from somebody. It's around here someplace. Anyway, so that being said, let's just focus on a couple of things.
So can I comment? That exists, Stanley. This subject of the Polish freedmans was the subject of my course with Phyllis Kramer about 5 years ago.
Right.
And I've laid out every single detail according to her methodology about these people's births and locations and their early time in America. It's all been completely documented in according to her methodology, which was to state all the facts in a very orderly way.
Yeah. Well,
I have continued to
I mean,
update that.
yeah, bullet points, obviously very, very helpful as well. But let's just talk about the problem that you're faced with.
Yes.
First of all, there are no surviving vital records for Sakhachen. However, there is an index volume for the books of residence that were in use from 1890 to 1931. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. So that's in the Grodzisk Mazowiecki archives. And I have the entries for what I thought was my family name in that particular book. I should mention, and that's something that's also interesting for some people. I spent years tracing my family that carried the genetic trait. And there was a family by the name of Videlits, or many entries in towns about 100 kilometers away from my town. And many of the given names were similar. And I spent 10 years documenting that group with the same unusual name and then when we finally did a DNA of that family, forget it, totally, totally unrelated. The name Videlits means fork. The fact that two different families took that name really was irrelevant. But that's what got me involved in the Sakhachen records. The person who's really commissioned and done a lot of work on Sakhachen, or been hired somebody to do a lot of work, is Jan Allen, who you see post all these messages about what other organizations are doing. She posts these messages on Jewish Gen. And I have a number of different little groups of records that she had created. The work was done by Petya Schroeder in Lodz, who went to the Grodzisk archives probably 10, 15 years ago and spent a lot of time digging deep in to try to find any reference. I don't want to spend a lot of time this morning just illustrating it, but the one thing that you must start with in terms of trying to find any proof that they were living there. Now, when would these people who were supposedly from Sakhachen, when approximately would they have been born?
1880s, and the parents earlier, 1865.
Okay, so they should appear in the books of residence. And
Yes.
for everybody who's not familiar with the books of residence, these are house by house censuses that were kept on an ongoing basis. Basically, it was a ledger of the Jews, of all the population in the town, that was kept for statistical purposes, that was kept for tax purposes, for army draft purposes. They wanted to know what we have today on computers, keeping track of the population. So if you want, Barry, you can write me off, later, starting, let's say, March the 1st, because until then I've got Roots Tech to worry about, etc. And I will see whether there's anything that I've got for that family among the Sakhachen little groups of entries. And if not, I'll give you the contact for Grodzisk to write. Okay?
Okay, good. But in parting, can I ask you, how do you feel about RootsTech being confined to 15 minutes only?
Well, let me go back to one thing, Nishava. Because you mentioned Nishava. Did you find anything in JRI Poland with that name?
No.
Okay, so let me show people, just everybody. When I'm faced with that question, what do I do? The first thing I do is to check and see what we have online. So I'm going to share screens and show you. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, here we go. Come on. Oh, geez. Let me, okay. And I'm going to go to the master. We call this our data file that tells me what JRI Poland has online. And we'll put in Nishava. And we see that up to 2015, that's when it was updated. The last file was updated. There's a pain in them. And the records online only, well, the births go up to 1903, marriages up to whatever they are, and deaths up to 1979, up 18, I'm sorry. So let's take a look and see the actual data and see if there's anything later that is not yet online. And here's phase 3, which is the latest file. And we're looking for Friedman. Friedman. Okay, so let's take a look for Friedman. And we're putting F in square brackets like we do online so that we don't get a W or a P. Okay, so there's 11 rows with Friedman. And here we have a Meyer and a Moishik who died, son of Yankel and Rochla, Koppel and Charna, Moskovich. Nothing here. I'm going different years. Now we're looking at 68 to 1904, Yankel, Necha, and Rochel. Nothing looks familiar?
Nope.
Okay,
The
then
four names are not common.
okay, then we have Enoch and Leah and Usher and Chaya, and they're not extracted. And then we have a Thega Toba, daughter of Meyer, who was the son of Yankel, and Esther Mai. So what do we assume when we, and this goes back to 1862, Fega Toba and Hirsch Leib. What do we assume when this kind of search results comes up? Oh, I'm sorry. The one thing I didn't do, and I'm going to do that right now, is I'm going to check the inventory. And the inventory shows that the birth records for 1895, oh, I'm sorry, that the birth records are virtually complete, going back from 1826 to 1903. So if they were presumably born in that period of time, then they should appear in the index. However, there's two factors you have to keep in mind. Not everybody was registered, and that can be very frustrating. Secondly, there may have been a short period of time, depending on what the profession of the father, where the family lived in Nishava. That, you can figure that one out. If the family were merchants, believe me, you will see people traveling many kilometers in merchant families. A son moves to another town to build the business in that town. You may be familiar with Beryl Steinhaus, the man who founded the Maimonides. Beryl Steinhaus was born in Nezhvizh, which is now in Belarus, and he traveled 300 kilometers to Prashashnich, where he married at age 23. Why? And I've been working on this with Beryl's great grandson, um, Adam last week. This is my, I'm related to the Steinhaus family. And in fact, they carry the trait. Um, what I learned was very interesting. The births of the children of this couple of Sarah and Beryl all indicate the father was um, a merchant. Next, but still, why did he come all the way there? Among all the birth records, there was one that shown that the family was living in Chekhanov at the time of the birth of that child. I went and I searched the Chekhanov records, and sure enough, it turned out that Beryl's aunt was married to a man from Chekhanov. So presumably she wrote and said, Beryl, do I have a girl for you? And so that's how it happened. In this case, I think that I was able to conjecture a logical explanation. And that's one of the reasons why we always recommend you dig deeply into every aspect of a record. And what I often do, and I don't know whether everybody else does it, I go into Google and I put distance from Nezhvij to Przasnysh, and I get a map, and I put that map into the Excel spreadsheet just as a way of a reference. Also, that map is very helpful because it often shows the towns in between, and then you may want to take a look at those towns in between, because it might not be simply a matter of somebody going from A to B, but they may be going to A1, A2, A3, A4 before they got to B. So that's just, again, my approach, but everybody develops their own way to try to conjecture what really was the story behind the movement of the family. Another example is in my family from Ostrov Mazowiecka, where my great grandfather was a tailor. Was he a tailor? No, I'm sorry, he was a blacksmith. I'm thinking of my other great grandfather, and he had 7 sons. Well, there's only so much room in one town for blacksmiths, so you see his sons. One ended up in a place called Vyshkov, another one ended up in Brock, another one ended up in Poremba, another one ended up in Govorovo, all blacksmiths. So that is an illustration of the importance of understanding what happens, the dynamics of a family when there are multiple generations. Of course, some blacksmiths, in some cases, there's an adjoining kind of profession. In one case, the blacksmith, and that would be my father's first cousin, Moishe Videlitz, he ended up by being in the cavalry of the Polish army using his blacksmith skills. Okay, so I don't think there's anything else I could add, Barry. Merle?
Thank you.
Unmute yourself, please.
Good morning. Okay, I think you can hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, the good news is that thanks to Gary, he did receive for me a naturalization paper of my grandfather. And I did learn the fact that I most wanted was where my grandfather was born, or the village. So now I want to know the next step. Gary had suggested that I look on Town Finder and Family Finder, which I did do, but I'm not sure where I go from there and what I do. I found a completely different spelling with some information on Ancestry, actually. And in Jewish Gen, also a completely different spelling. I also replied to somebody, I think in Town Finder, I put in the last name Blau and the town, and I found some entries the most recent being 2010. So I have no idea if I will get any kind of replies. So I'm just asking as to what my next steps might be, what kinds of information I should look for.
What town?
The way it's spelled in the naturalization papers, Colbasow, Galicia, Austria. Let me just say one more thing. In Ancestry, I found something with that town and the name Blau in Canada, that he arrived in Canada in 1890, which would have made him 9 years old, if that's really him. So that might lead me to think that he came with his parents. That was another question I had. Did he come over to Montreal as an adult, or did he come as a child? So
okay. So let's say that Kolbasov, if you will, that's what that probably is Kolbashov in the Galicia.
Right, it is Galicia. And how do you spell what you just said?
Let me bring it up and I will show you. So here we go. If I go to share screens again, and we'll share screens, and we'll go to the we'll go to Jewish Gen, and we'll go to the town finder, and we'll put Kolbasov just like that, and we'll put all countries, and we'll do sounds like rather than.
Okay, that's exactly what I did earlier. Yeah.
Okay, and so here's Kolbasov, Slovakia, and then you have Kolbashova, Poland, which is a Galician town. All right, so now we have Kolbashova.
Could you spell what I can't read what it says there, so I'll know which one.
Kolb as in boy, Uszzowa.
Okay.
So is that the town that you looked at?
I think I did, because I noticed Galicia. How do you pronounce it? Galicia?
Galicia, yeah.
Right, because in the naturalization it says Galicia, Austria. That's another thing that
was the Galician province in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was then divided between Poland and Ukraine.
Okay.
Between the wars, it was all in Poland. After the war, it was divided after Second World War. So now when we look at all the family finder, and you're looking for the name Blau, right?
Correct.
So control find. Let's go here. Blau. There's 8 people. There's Arthur Friedberg, but he's dead. And then there's Barbara Kornblau. And that's probably a different name. Do
you want his first name?
No. And then we have Jessie Ann Rosenblum, who's logged in December. Have you tried to reach out to her?
No.
You should.
Now what is the name again?
Well, you'll see.
Oh, I'll see it. Okay.
You'll see but here's what's very important, by the way. She's interested in Blau, but she's also interested in Gutenberg, Berner, and Fingerhut and Eckstein. So one of the things that you may want to do is to see whether or not there are any names in your family that are related to that. And then you've got another Blau. You've got a Marvin Goldklang who's interested. And then you have Myron Schreck. Okay, and then you'll have Kenneth John McLean, good Jewish name. Now, here's what's
I think he's the one I just sent an email to.
Okay, now here's the one that's really important. Do you know the name Susanna Block?
No.
Susanna Block is the lady who runs the Jewish Gen Kahila links. She is a woman in Winnipeg, and she is a great source of information. Kolbashov is her town because there are no surviving vital records. She is a fountain of knowledge, or font of knowledge, whatever, about the town. So, so let's go back for a second.
So is she in that list or do I contact her separately?
Well, let's take a look. So we'll look here on the Shtetl Finder, right? Well, it's called Shtetl Finder, but let's do it this way here. The Jewish Gen website for Kolbashova. It's not coming up. So we'll go back and we'll go to Kahila links. We'll go to Poland and Kolbashova. So here is have you seen this page?
No.
Okay.
Or maybe a long time ago.
Okay. So you'll see at the bottom probably her email address. Here we are, Susanna Bloch. So her email, just so you'll have it, is Bloch, BLOCH, at MTS, that's Manitoba something, MTS.net. Okay, so you'll see here many different articles, stories, pictures relating to the town.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, but certainly I would write to all the Blaus, the people who have listed Blau first, and then at the same time contact Susanna.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I do have a unrelated to that question, but it can wait.
All right.
If
So
other people have it.
wait. So somebody else has a question, right? Nobody else has a question. Oh my stars. Shia.
No, I don't have any questions. I mean, I always have questions, but no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, Leonard.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, there was a newspaper article about my great-great-grandfather. A reporter in Liverpool, England, in August 1905, saying that he's on his way back from visiting his 3 sons in Canada, and he's heading to Jerusalem to spend the rest of his life there. He was 107.
Only.
So mentioned in the article.
Only.
He does not feel that he'd be able to get back and see his 3 sons again in Canada. I found 2 of them. I'm looking for the 3rd.
Oh my God. When did you find this article?
I picked it up when I was at the Canadian Jewish Congress. They had a photocopy of this newspaper article about this person, Laser Popliger.
No, but how did you know that article was there? What was the route? What were the steps that you took?
I attended a meeting that Janice Gross gave to our group, and I decided to go there and see what they had on file for several family members.
Okay, but there was no index. How did you find that particular newspaper article?
They had file folders with this one piece of paper in it under the letter P, Popliger. I gave a name and they looked it up.
So somebody
very helpful.
Somebody sometime had an interest in Popliger, and that's
submitted
how
it. Yes.
And of course, you have no knowledge of who that person is.
Correct.
Well, that's called finding a needle in a haystack, Leonard.
And that newspaper article was repeated and published in many cities in the States and in Europe, because you have this gentleman in 1905 living through 3 centuries. They said that his eldest son was 88.
Oh my God.
Which I don't know how accurate the numbers are.
All right. So my question, your question is the third son. Where
Yes,
where did he end up? Where were the other two sons?
they all met in Montreal.
Okay.
There is a third person with the same family name that came in from New Jersey at that time. But his tombstone does not label the father as the same person that we're concerned about.
Okay. So did you find any trace of them coming to Canada?
I found the two that I'm aware of. I don't know who the third one was or finding his name.
No, what I'm saying is, did you find them in the passenger lists, the two?
Yes.
And did you check the departure lists from England?
Mm, I'd have to reconsider that. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, that's one of the things because I could never find my grandfather's arrival in New York. I couldn't find him in Montreal. Turned out he arrived in Boston. And I wasn't able to find him until Ancestry put the arrival lists, pardon me, until I found the departure list in England, because he took the indirect route, as it was called, from Europe to England, crossed over from Grimsby to Liverpool, and then got on the boat in Liverpool. And
What other cities would they be coming from in Europe? He is of, I believe he's Romanian.
he could have taken the indirect route and ended up in Hamburg and taking the commuter boat from Hamburg to Grimsby. But here's the thing. Let's take a look at the departure record. Okay, so I'm going to share screens. And now this may be a wild goose chase, but let's do ancestors on board. Ancestors on board, not on feet, on board. Family history in the making. And let's take a look here. No, I think we'll go to. All right, so we're going to look. That's fine. Okay, so we're going to look for Popliger.
Well, the name that I have on the great grandfather, Laser, they had him spelt in the newspaper article as Poppelik.
Okay, so let's just put Popliger and let's put it that way there. And oh, you got to sign up. Okay, I'm not going to sign up. Let's take a look at Ancestry. Passenger lists. I'm sure you've already done this a number of times yourself. So there's 4,000 results. We don't want that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to edit the search. And we're going to say arrival. We'll say lived in England. And let's see what we come up with. I want exact. $27. Of course, it could be other spellings as well. And we're looking for one of, nope, there's nothing there. But I I'm just trying to remember. I had another way of looking at the of the ancestors on board that didn't require a sign up. Let's try. Have you used Family Search?
I've tried most of them.
You did try most of them. Okay. And let's try last name here. It was only 147,000. So anyway, that's another option for checking. The other thing that really is the big challenge, as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that you have a name that is, not a typical name, and whether or not somebody changed the name from Popliger to Pope, as an example, to be more Canadianized, more Americanized. So that's another challenge. So what you really want to know is what was his given name, right? You don't even know his given name.
The unknown son, no.
Okay, and where were the other children born?
In Romania. I don't have the.
Okay, so they were.
I would try Herlau.
Okay, so I'm not going to go into Romanian research right now, but that would be the logical place to start, because if you have the given name, there's obviously ways in which you can search for the given name in conjunction with the siblings' names, etc. Also, you never know whether somebody had to write back to Romania to get some sort of document, whether a note was actually written on the record. I have a number of, pardon me, a number of cases where you see the original record, the original birth record, original marriage record, original death record, where there is a note that's been added at some point about a document being provided or about a new event relating to that person, because there was no other place to record it. So that's, and I don't know about Romanian research. So I would talk to somebody who is very familiar with that research, that town, that area, and see what they have to say. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next question. Barry, you had your hand up there.
Thank you. This is an ancillary question to the one that I posed earlier. It has to do with the spelling and pronunciation of a surname. Yule's wife's name was Esther, and on a number of secondary records of their children, marriage licenses, her surname, family name, is given as Yettel or Eitel. Yettel, Y-E-T-T-E-L, Eitel, E-I-T-E-L. How would that be pronounced in Polish or Yiddish?
Okay, first of all, let's look at the origin of the name. Are you familiar with Bader's book?
I am.
Okay, I have it behind me. I don't need it. When it comes to that name, it's very easy for me. That's my mother's name.
Ah.
The root name of Yetta or Yentl or is Ethel. You could pronounce it, you can spell it E-T-E-L, E-T-I-E-L, but that is the root name. And that is the name that you get the various Yiddish diminutives of Yetta, etc. So in terms of actually doing research, that name would appear on the gravestone. Um, I must tell you that my mother was obviously because her name was the name she took herself when she first went to school was Annie. Many people thought that her name had to be Hannah, which of course was not correct. So with that name, where do you want to go with?
Well, no, I was referring to it being her surname, her birth name.
Her surname was,
yes, her given name is Esther.
yeah,
Sarah. This is her family name.
her family. And how did you spell it?
What two different spellings I've seen on records: Yettel and Eitel.
Okay, so let's throw out what I just said because it's not relevant. Except for one possibility that the family took the mother's given name as the family name. So that's a matter of going back generations to see if you can trace back generations. Where did this family live?
Sachechin.
Oh, God. All roads lead back to Sachechin.
Well, no, but I mean, that's what Esther says on the New York Ships Manifest.
Right.
Where
right.
she and a couple of the children were born.
Okay. Well, let me do something else. I'm going to try something else just out of curiosity. I'm going to share screens. And for those of you who are not aware of it, this is the magic program that I use day in, day out. It's called X1, and it is a super search system. So if I want to know if there's any reference to that name anywhere on my computer, you'll see I have 591,000 records of different types. So I put it to see if it's in the file name. So why don't you give me some more spellings?
Eitel.
Eitel?
Yes.
So there's nothing. So let's try, that's within the file names. Now let's look within the files. The Eitel.
Yes.
And here's Barry Spinner.
That's my correspondence with you.
Oh, okay. But you see, I was able to bring it up.
Yes. Well done.
And this is Title Bomb, doesn't do it. Title Bomb again. And these are the titles. The titles are from Ostrov Mazowiecka. I don't think it's the same. And here is a given name, Eitel Igrar and Eitel Kopf. Now that's a possibility that it's a shortening of the name Eitel. Eitelberg. It could very well be, but I know. So let's try another spelling.
Yettel.
Yettel.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, your name comes up again.
Yes, because I referenced it.
And here again, a Yettel is a given name, Yettel Salzman.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, there could be any number of variations. Let's try with one T, for example. His mother's name was Yettel, again, given name. And then Yettel. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a challenge. I think you have to go right, like I said at the beginning, see what's available in Sachechin that might have an answer. Oh, let me just take a look. Okay.
I have on my screen the surname list for Sachachin, and no names, no surname that looks or sounds like what we've just spelled is in that list.
You're talking about the family finder.
No, yeah, I actually did it. It's a JRI surnames list.
Okay. All right. So let's do Sachachin. And wait a second. Sachachin or Sachachov?
Chin.
Oh, I have misspoken. Sachachin is a different town. My apologies. Okay, so this is all the records for Sachachin in JRI Poland. First, we're going to check and see whether there's anything else what's online. So 1910 up to 1903. So there's nothing in this file except maybe some extractions. And what was the name that we're looking for? Yet Ethel, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to search all columns in this file. Oh, there's Nishava. Huh. Okay. Let me make sure that I'm searching the right file. Sachachin. And let me go back here. Sachachin. EITEL. I'm going to put the T in square brackets so we don't get D. We're going to search all columns. Let's just do surnames first of all. And because the name may come up in as a mother's maiden name that's not online. I'm not sure. No rows. Okay, so let's try the name finder again. Let's try all columns. And then we'll try with a Y. No rows. Okay. Name finder. And then we want with a Y, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Stanley, if it's Polish, there would be a Y, there would be a J.
Makes no. The Y and the J is the same. The search looks for both the J and the Y. So there's nothing there. I'm sorry to say there's nothing. But what about the given names?
Well, her given name is Esther or Estera.
Okay, so let's look for Esther and Hester. Is that what you're saying?
No, I said Estera.
Yeah, well, it makes no difference.
Okay. No H. I've
A-
never seen an H, but.
Oh, yeah, so it's just Esther.
Mhm.
And what other names are there that go along? I mean, what other names in the family?
Oh, of the children?
That might have been born there, yeah.
Noah,
Noah, okay.
Surah,
Surah,
Hannah,
Charna,
Charna.
yeah.
Just 1 second. I'm listing them. Shlomo.
Shlama, yeah.
And I'm not quite sure what my grandmother's name was, but she went by Paulina. but I have it as Pera, P-E-R-E, but I never heard her use that.
Pera and Pola. I'm going to try both.
Yes.
And we're going to go to given names. And let's see. Now, what our aim here is to see where all those names or many of the names appear in one surname.
Yes.
And this is a trick we've used on many occasions to find the original family name.
Quite.
We had that in a case for Finding Your Roots, the TV program. And it defied their, they thought they were very smart. They were searching J.R.I. Poland. They couldn't find anything. Finally, they admitted to themselves, we better contact J.R.I. Poland. And Judy Golan and Israel had the answers. So we have an Esther Sura. So you can see, well, let's go to the births. And we have Esther, Sura, Esther, Sura. No. Nothing even remote like that. And let's look for the family name. You said Friedman?
I said Friedman. Now, just hold on 1 second on that screen. Esther, when arriving in New York City, says that the village from which she departed was Sachachin, and from a friend, Joseph Kleinman. So I see you have a Kleinman right here.
Yep. So we have an Esther Friedman in Sachachin, daughter of Moshel. That's Mordechai. Do you know what's on her gravestone?
No, I've never found it.
Never found it. And her mother is Sura Malka Littman. So, and what was the name of the claimant?
Just 1 second. Let me pull the record up.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to search for Friedman's.
Joseph.
Friedman and Kleiman, right?
Joseph Kleinman, friend in Sachachin, is whom she says she departed from.
Okay. And you know the names of other?
Nothing.
Okay, now there's something else that was very important that I missed. And that is that there's Kleiman and Kleinman with an N. And often they are used interchangeably by families.
Wow.
You always have to be careful. It's the same thing with Freeman and Friedman.
Yes.
Kleinman. So we're going to.
That means little man, Kleinman.
See, Kleiner.
Small man. Okay. So we see here that you have Esther born in 1860 and 1880, probably there's another. Okay, so, and let's look at the Kleinmans. You said Joseph?
Yes.
Joseph, let's look for Yosek. Here's a Itzik Yosek. Yosek Baruch, born 1854. That's a little bit earlier than she was born around 1880.
No, Esther would have been born in the 1860s.
1860. Okay, so that yes. Computes. He was born 1854. He's, so now the question is if Esther, we see Esther here, she was born 1860, this is 1880 here. 1860, Shmuel. Well, okay. So let's just say we see Friedman's in Sochichen. We see the Kleinmans in Sochichen. The next step, of course, is to fully extract all the Friedmans and to
Yes.
see where that leads you.
Okay, I'll do that.
And now, in order to fully extract them, you have to go to the scans.
Yes.
And how do you get the scans?
Tell me.
Okay, well, let's go here. And we'll go right here. And there are all the scans. So there's a couple of options here. Let me go back to stop sharing screens. If you are serious about digging into the Friedman family, now how are you related to this particular Friedman family?
Those are, the daughter is my grandmother.
Okay, so that obviously is a serious location for your research. Are you able to read the Polish records?
Not yet, but I've been able to read every other countries that I've set out to, so I can do this
Okay.
one.
Well, the first thing you want to do now, remember, is that there are the Napoleonic format.
Yes,
So you probably would want to get Miriam Weiner's, Judy Frazen's book. Are you familiar with it?
no, but I can be.
Okay. Well, it's on our. Just put in JRI Poland Judith Frazen, and hold on. This is the third edition. The first edition is the one that I used. You can order it online. It's about $60. And it is, I mean, we're looking at a book around 400 pages with, and very well set out in order to read it. And if you're serious about it, we can work out some arrangements to share the images with you, and hope that you would provide us with the results for our own database.
Certainly.
Okay, so we'll take it from there. All right, somebody
Thank you.
else has a question. No? All right, Audrey. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to my paternal side of the family. I'm trying to find out the original name of my grandfather. When he came to Canada he was born in 1866 or 7 in Russia. And when him and his wife came over, both grandparents, they were 14 and 16 years old at the time. So he died in Montreal in 1941. The name is Simon Miller. I have a copy of his headstone. But the thing is, I was told the original name was Polovnik.
Was what?
Polovnik.
Oh, where did you get Polovnik from?
A relative told me.
Okay, and what was the town name?
I have his name. I don't know. It just says Russia. When he became a naturalized citizenship, I have a copy of it.
Okay, you have a copy of his application or of his certificate?
He became naturalized in 1892. Russia. I have the file number, the volume number, reference number, item number.
No. I'm sorry.
I have that. I have to go look for it.
You wrote to Ottawa and you got the file with the application?
I have it in one of my, I didn't print it out. I have it in one of my.
No, I understand that, but I just want to make sure that it's clear. You wrote to Ottawa and you got a file with all the documents associated with his application for citizenship?
No, I got it online and I printed it all out.
Oh, wait a second. Was this the Montreal Circuit Court?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
And it showed his current name and not the original name.
exactly.
Okay. And the town. All right. Now he was alive in 1940, right?
He died in November 1941.
Okay. Have you applied for the 1940 national registration?
No, because they came over in the late 1800s.
No, that's not the point. The point is every document counts. Every record counts. And in 1940, when they did the national registration, they not only asked for your information, but the information for your parents. And if your parents were born in a different town from you, it may appear in that record. So it's for $48.15 from Statistics Canada. Have you seen what this document looks like?
Yeah, I have. It's an official government document, and he signed it, and it's all everything.
No. The national registration. Are you familiar with the national
No,
registration?
I'm not. No, I'm
Okay,
not.
so let's take a look at it because it is an important source of information.
Thank you.
For me, it was the original family name of my and place of birth of my great grandmother. I never knew. I was looking in the wrong place.
Okay.
You know the old story about the guy on the golf course is looking in the wrong place because the light is better there.
Right.
Looking for love in all the wrong places.
That's right. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that, and we're going to go to
They had lots of children.
so we can go to a number of ways we can get there. 1940 Canadian national registration. And here's the way you write it, where you write to, and here is what it looks like, what's on there. Here's the form, and here's the information. Place and country of birth of individual and his or her parents. That's important.
Okay.
Year of entry into Canada, etc. But that is a key item in this, and this is what the page looks like, where people had to enter the information.
Okay. I don't know the name of my great grandparents.
Well, you may find it from here, but wait a second. You'd know the name of your great grandfather because of the name of his father, of your grandfather's father, will appear on his gravestone. No.
I had it translated, but hold on. Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph. Okay, so when you have two names in a family, that's very helpful as well. So like I said, I would write and get that. It'll take you a number of months for it to arrive.
Especially now.
I'm sorry?
Especially during COVID.
Yeah, well, it's been, a lot of people have a lot of time to order a lot of records.
Right.
All right. All right. So we'll move on to anybody else have a question?
Stanley, to get this 1940 registration, you need the address. Right?
Yes, you need the address where they were living in 1940. Thank you, Anders. You know where?
I do have two addresses. I do have two addresses where they live.
Okay, so you provide both addresses.
Okay.
Yeah, because particularly if somebody died in 1941, what you do, of course, is you go to Lovell's, and you're familiar.
Right, that's what I did. Yeah.
All right. So both addresses, submit both addresses so that it'll be one or the other. Now, just keep in mind one other thing, two other things, that if his wife was living at the time as well,
Yes.
her form would be totally different. There's one form for each person. In addition, if he had a brother or a sister, you may find that their document would have more information than his.
I don't know of any of his relatives.
You don't know of any. Okay, well, just be aware of it. Now, the other thing, you know the name of the town, correct?
Yeah, I'd have to look in the papers. Yeah.
All right. So obviously there's research to do relating to the town. All right. Next question. No more questions. Okay. Since there's no more questions, I want to. Oh, okay, Meryl. Unmute yourself, Meryl.
This is a question that I may have asked when I first started attending these workshops, but now that I understand the process a little bit better, maybe I'll understand the answer a little bit better. My mother had a younger brother that died, and the name was Willie Weinstein, as far as I know. And I think Paperman had a record, but I couldn't find him in the Baron de Hirsch cemetery. And I think he may have died of some kind of physical ailment, obviously a physical ailment, but something like cerebral palsy, we think. So I'm just trying to find out more about his death and where he might be.
Okay,
he was probably around 5 or 6 years old when he died.
And this is approximately when?
I'd say maybe about 1915.
19.
Because I'd say something about there, he might have been born and then lived for about 5 years. Maybe a couple, I think the family arrived from Romania in 1911, maybe 1912. And so I think he was born after they arrived.
Okay, so I don't remember who I did this for. Were you the one I searched the death records in Quebec from 1900, 1925 earlier today?
No, definitely not. I didn't. And but an earlier question reminded me of this question. Somebody else was asking about an infant.
Okay.
But no, this is something from a long time ago.
All right, so let's take a look at that.
Sally, that was me who asked earlier.
Yeah, right. And it reminded me of a question I had that still was not answered.
Okay, so here is and what was the family name?
Weinstein.
Weinstein.
Correct.
Okay, so there's one Weinstein. Here we go. Child of David.
No, his father's name was Joseph. So, and it wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have been 1906.
You said he was, well, we hear the ones that are in this.
Yeah.
We have a Simon 1901, a Max 1904, a Henry 1913. Is that possibly it? Do you know his given name?
I thought it was William, but I could be wrong with that. Or I heard wrong. Well, but 1913 could be the right date.
Well, that's the only option one there. Do we have anything, Gary, for Henry Weinstein?
There are Weinsteins in the cemetery in Sherbrooke.
I'm not seeing any.
Well, you don't see the Henry Weinstein in our records?
Yes, I see that. But I don't see a William or a Bill or a Willie or a Wolf or a Zev.
Okay, but does it show who the father is?
Yeah, Willie could be a nickname. It could be a totally different name as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been Willie Weinstein, you know, it's sort of an alliterative thing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't see a father of Weinstein Joseph.
Well, do you,
No, Henry.
Oh, Henry. No, I don't see that either.
And so it says he's buried in the Beth Israel Synagogue.
well, he wouldn't have been died in 1913, I don't think. I think he would have maybe been born in 1913. Because I think he would have been born around then. Because the fact,
So he could be in the later death records.
possibly.
Okay, so let's go there. Let's go to my other computer. And let's go to Quebec deaths and find, let's go to Weinstein.
I don't think it would be as late as 1926. I'm looking. No, that would be much
Well,
too late.
we already looked up to 1925.
Oh, it's okay. Well, I don't think it would be 1926. That's
And
much
you
too
said
late.
it was Willie, right?
Yes, as far as I know.
So there's a Wolf, born 1902. No. I mean, we could look at some. So you said a child that he was born about 1913 or
Is my guess. Anyway, he'd be born after 1911.
Okay, so let's look at birth. Let's sort it by birth. And so in terms of the ages of, they all seem to be,
Yeah, adults.
yeah, I don't see any.
Okay. What about at Paperman's? Is there a way of searching Paperman's?
No, you have to call them, number one. Number two, their records, I think before 1915, they're, what Paperman's records, Gary, I think start in the late teens, don't they?
They go to 1915. There's nothing before 1915.
Yeah, I think he would have died after 1915.
Yeah, I mean, Paperman's may have their filing system is rudimentary before, 1960 or something like that.
I think they had a record, very basic. I didn't give much information at Paperman's, but then I couldn't find him at the cemetery.
Yeah, Gary, is the Baron de Hirsch, is it online?
Which Baron de Hirsch?
No, I'm talking about the Baron de Hirsch and Back River database. Is that searchable now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so why don't I go there?
I don't recommend it because they have like the 5,000 errors in there.
Okay.
So.
Well, let's look at something else then. Let's look at we'll look at the Drouin records. Oh, God. I don't know whether it's going to come up. All right, so it was Weinstein, right?
Yes.
And you know the father's name?
Should probably Joseph.
Father is Joseph. Okay. J-O should be sufficient. And we have a William, born 1915, son of Joseph and Golda or
That's
Gold.
perfect. That's it.
All right. So that's his birth record.
Oh, let me write that.
Well, it's online.
Well, where do I look online?
I will get it for you.
Or could you put it in the link in the chat, maybe?
Let's hold on a second. We'll go to Ancestry. Where's ancestry.com? What's for dumb? We'll do it the other way. Okay. So we'll go to Steve Morse and we'll put in William Weinstein and we'll look in Quebec. La belle province de Quebec.
Yeah.
And we see we want lived in Quebec. All right. No, for some reason it's not there. We have the scans of this record. So if you send a email to vitals@jgs-montreal.org.
Vitals@jgs.montreal.org. Yeah.
And Alan Greenberg is handling that. And just tell Alan that what happened just now, that in fact we couldn't find it on on Ancestry. But let me try one more thing.
But what do I say to Alan? What will he scan? What is it you did find?
The birth record.
A birth record. Okay, and that was in 1913.
Here, the birth record was, and you can give him the entry number. Do I have the entry number? Hold on a second. No, I don't have it.
What's the number on the left? The 11 I can see.
No, that's the microfilm number. So it's just William Weinstein, Beth Joseph.
Wait, what is that? Beth Joseph is what?
That's the shul.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's this is very interesting. He was registered in 1915, but he was born in 1916. So
wait, born when?
Oh, here's the record ID number. I'm sorry. So the record ID number is 22010.
22010.
Yeah. And he was born on the 12th of January 1916. Okay, Gary, you find it?
Yes, I did. I just posted it to chat. It's on Ancestry. He was born 1914. It was registered 1916.
So there's an error. Okay, let me know.
It's in the 1915 records for Beth Joseph.
All right. So hold on. This is very important because it appears that that our database is wrong. So I'm going to go back to the chat. Where's the chat? Okay.
I don't see anything in chat related to this yet. Oh, thank you. So I just click on that and save it, I guess.
Yeah, where is it?
I could share my screen, and I have it up on my screen here.
I just clicked on your link and it just brought up Ancestry. Well, let me at least copy the link and see what I can do with it later if I can.
Yep. Yeah, I've got it as well. Baby William Weinstein, parents Joseph. Yep.
That's exactly what I want. This is amazing.
Okay,
Aha. Stanley Shaya has had his hand up for a while.
okay, just hold on a second while I
No
while I
rush.
while I save this, save image as. Hold on a second. We have to correct our database. We're just doing that right now. William Weinstein, 1914. Save. And I come back here. And we come back to the, Zoom. Okay, yeah, next.
Well, let me make sure I know what I'm supposed to do now. And
No,
what
There's nothing. You've got it. You've got the birth record.
and that link is the birth record. Is that what you're
That's
saying?
right. That's the birth record as it appears in the synagogue's book, the synagogue's vital record book. Okay, who had the question? Who had a hands up there?
Hi,
Shia.
Stanley. Hi, Stanley. You just you were searching Quebec deaths. What is that? That's your database of just entry or actual
No.
death certificates?
That set is the, okay, so let me go back. In 1926, the government of Quebec instituted a different kind of record keeping. That was when the statistical record of marriages was instituted, and there was also a statistical record of deaths. And that lasted until 1996. We paid, I think, $3,000 to the Quebec government to get this index probably 20 some odd years ago. It's no longer available to anybody. It was available to genealogical societies, but because of confidentiality, they no longer make it available to societies. And we are blessed to have this because often it provides information that is absolutely remarkable. We've helped people find their identity, people adopted, etc. So that's what we have. We have this death index. And in some cases it shows the father, in some cases it shows the mother, some cases it shows the spouse. The earlier records have fewer of the additional pieces of information, but the
And
later
it's
ones,
hard copy. It's like it would say cause of death.
no, it doesn't.
No.
That
Okay.
gives you the information you need to write for the death certificate.
Okay. Would you be able to look for one? I know if it takes much longer, I can do it afterwards. But I'm just curious. I'm looking for one.
What name are you looking for? Hello?
Hi. Sorry, it was just my phone ringing. From 1942.
1942. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the name?
Daniels is the last name. D as in David.
Daniel.
Daniels. Daniels.
Right. And given name?
Eliyahu, Eli, Alexander. We're not sure which one.
He died what year?
December 1942.
Okay, so let's put in 1942 and not put in anything in the given name. So Edward Charles.
No.
Emma, Harry.
Harry was 1961, that Harry.
Born and died 1942 on June the 5th.
No. So that's not I thought maybe that's his brother or something, but it's a Dr. Eli Daniels.
Okay, so let's try this. Let's redo this. Let's put Daniel because they make lots of mistakes. Daniel, and we'll put 1942 as the deaths again. You're sure?
Yes. Yes, on his gravestone is 1942.
So what are we looking for? Amy Aurora, Ellie Alexander.
There, that's, yeah.
Yep, here he is. He was living in Outremont,
Correct.
and that's all it gives us
That's all.
is a birth year of 1904. So all they had was the age, and they conjectured 1904.
So that reference number that you have is corresponding to an actual physical document that would be able to be, if a next of kin or something like that would be able to request it, right?
That's right. But you would definitely probably have to have a next of kin.
Kin.
It's this ID number that we have here. Now, let me just. I don't know whether it is
It's amazing you have this.
significant or not, but it's D067
D067
2438.
2438. Wow.
But I would suggest that you write to Alan Greenberg, Vital, and tell him you want to get it. And Stanley suggested that you ask him for the approach, the best approach to try to get it, because sometimes they have not been very cooperative. They may or may not give you this information.
Right. Because my theory is his father. It's on this. We don't understand how he died. It was very sudden, but there's a lot of information, newspaper articles, Hebrew newspaper articles talking about Eli Daniel's father's death. Eli dies suddenly as well, and then the link is my grandfather, which is their brothers, dies as well suddenly. So we're trying to, in that application, maybe you can say yes or no, to tie it in the importance of what we're searching for. We understand confidentiality, but we're trying to get of what the cause of deaths were. Are they linked for future generations?
Exactly. And I think that is very, very important. I can tell you that my research into the genetic trait in my family, basically, I've climbed on that horse and I've ridden it off in all directions. I've made magic in Poland. I got access that was not available to anybody. Okay.
Wow.
Even before JRI Poland was born, that's how I got started. I mean, the records more than 100 years old, or less than 100 years old, were subject to Polish privacy. But in 1995, you can tell I'm a genealogist. I'm thinking 1 century back. 1995, when I went to Poland, the mayor of the town agreed to allow us to extract all the records in the town.
Wow.
I mean, that was like unheard of. So
yeah,
it is something to write home. What you would probably want to do is, do you have a family doctor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Discuss it with your family doctor, and if you know him well, see whether he will sort of co-sign the letter,
very smart.
And speak to the importance of future generations and your family, in your concern about you and your 5 children, 5, I think, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
You and your 5 children, you need this information. You be able to, you can say you're building a family tree, you're reaching out, but if there's any indication, then that would be very meaningful for your research. And I have a document, and write me, I have a document that I've written. It's an article in Avotenu on why Jewish genealogists should be doing family medical and genetic research. And so you could send that as an attachment as well.
Okay.
I have it in French as well. It was published in France in Genami. So that should equip you and give you a little bit of hopefully a leg up.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Susan.
Hi. Trying to get some information on my great grandparents. I have their names, and the way that I think I know what their town was is that their son-in-law on his naturalization papers said that his wife, their daughter, was born in Bialystok. So I think that's where the family is from, probably both of my great-grandparents, because they came as a married couple with this young child. I have, according to him, their date of arrival in New York, but I haven't been able to find any records on Steve Morse or any place else for their emigration, or I have family names based on tombstones that may be listed somewhere in Bialystok, but that's it.
Okay, so first of all, let's get a time frame.
Okay.
When were these people born, more or less?
Okay. Yes, let me take a look at the grave. The daughter was born in 1904.
Right.
So let me see what it has on the graves. 1 second. The father, Samuel, whose name was Simcha, really, Simcha Binyamin, was, here we go. I have both of them. Oops, wait a minute, that's the English. Hold on. Okay. He died in 39 at the age of 55.
So, where? In Montreal?
No, sorry, Philadelphia.
Okay, right.
We're in the United States.
Okay, so
around 84, the 80s,
all
1880s,
right.
I'd say the parents were born.
Let me try a couple of things. First
Okay.
of all, share screens, and we'll go to our favorite X1, and we want an Excel reference. And the family name was what?
Borovsky.
How do you spell it?
In the States, it's spelled B as in boy, O-R.
Okay,
O-W.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to put in Bialystok. Okay, this is my X1 and marriage record.
Okay.
We don't see anything. B-O-R, go ahead, give me the rest.
O-W.
Borov.
S-K-Y. S as in Sam. Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing there. No. So we have Borovska, lots of them in Bialystok. Borovska would be the feminine.
Right.
So let's look here. We have Borovska, Toba, daughter of Moisha.
I have his mother's name.
Okay.
From the tombstone, if that helps.
Yep.
It was Esther.
And he was born when?
I actually have her tombstone. Samuel was born, what did we say, 1884.
Okay, so let's go to JRI Poland.
Okay, and I have his mother's grave also.
Well, let's hold on a second. We're going to search. We're going to search for Borovsky. I must tell you that when I visited the Drohichin, the seminary in Drohichin, the Drohichin archives, the priest who was the head of the archives was Father Borovsky.
Okay.
And his uncle was executed during the war for helping Jews. A remarkable story, and he was a remarkable man. Wow. May he rest in peace. He was such a, I could tell, I could talk for 15 minutes about that experience at the Diocese of Drohichin. I have photographs. It was a remarkable experience. And why that we visited is because that was the location of the hidden records from the 20th century for the town of Chechanovsky. Chechanovitz, I'm sorry. So, okay, so we have and we want we want to search.
His mother, Esther, are you looking for Esther?
Yeah, let's search for the given name
And,
Esther.
okay, and she was born about 1864,
Esther.
according
Okay.
to her tombstone.
All right. So we're looking in the Grodno Gubernia. That's where Bialystok was. And 1896, there's a birth of, it's not an Esther, it's an Ezador, daughter of
I believe her maiden name was Slutsky.
Then she's going to be registered as Slutsky, which means from the town of Slutsk. Okay. Esther Slutsky, Slutsky. And we have, no. And let's try another name. Who else?
Well, Samuel's father was Laser. Well, you said there were no Borowskis, so I don't know.
No, there's plenty. I don't.
The Borowskas there were, but
Yeah, but it could have been spelled differently. Borovsky. Let's try that. And his name was Laser, right?
right. That was Esther's husband,
Laser.
Laser Rouvain. I have his father's name too.
So this is Meyer Laser Borovsky. So there are Borovskys. 1875, son of David. Now remember, these are index entries.
Right.
The actual records are online. So there may be much more information. So let's take a look at 1875 birth.
That would have been, I think, too late by
No, but
10 years.
I want to illustrate something.
Okay.
So we're talking about Bialystok. So we go to the new website of the Polish State Archives. And we go up here and start at the beginning, search the archives. We put in Bialystok. Then we want Jewish, so that's the Moshe Zhezhov is Jewish. And we want Pragiad, which is vital records. And we see that there are all these vital records. And these are Zagoni, which are deaths. This is Malshenstva, which is marriages. These are the divorces. And we have the births. So let's click here. And we want this reference code. And then we want to go to units. And you'll see there's 16,000 scans. So we saw, was 1845, did we say?
No, 64, I think. Around
1875, 408. So
for him, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so 1875. And these are deaths. We don't want the deaths. We want births from 1875. Well, you know what? I'm just going to illustrate. So we click on that. And there you have them. And if we look at the record itself, you'll see something interesting. First of all, it's in Russian. So there's a lot more information, ages, parents' names, etc., plus notes. So that's what you want to do is you want to go into JRI polling. You want to find and look at all the different variations. So let's go back again to the search system and do something else. We're going to look for every Borofsky. And we're going to get rid of that. And we're going to look under phonetically like, but we're also going to put a square brackets around the B to make sure that you don't get something else. And there's 63 records. So I would take all the, now there's another very, if, are you comfortable with Excel?
Yes.
Okay, so what I would do is I would go back and I'd go back to the beginning, and then I would click here, single line, Excel friendly. Now, when you get the results, they're on a single line. There's multiple columns, which can drive you crazy. And what you do is you simply copy and paste this whole thing into Excel, eliminate the columns that are, I mean, you could eliminate the columns that are empty, or you can do this. You can click and get rid of the, but the problem with doing that, getting rid of the empty columns, is that for some data sets, there's more information than others. So that means when you copy and paste into Excel, it's going to be all over the place, and it makes it much more difficult to integrate everything. So once you've, so now notice the way in which these names are spelled. There's a BA. If you put in exact spelling BO, you're not going to get Chana Mehta.
Right.
And then the same thing here. You've got a lot of Borofskys with an I. I don't know why I didn't. And then take a look here. In the 1912 voter list, it's spelled Borowski because in Polish, it's Borowski with a W. In Russian, it's with a V. And this has this, when this database was created, we had somebody translate who was not Polish. They translated it from the Russian into what into the Russian to English transliteration, and not the Russian to Polish.
Okay.
All right, so that gives you a little bit of homework.
Yep.
Now notice that there is a cemetery burial for Yaakov David. So if you find that you know who he is, you know, there's a grave to visit.
What is the year? Is this 1898? Is that what it says?
Yeah, 1898.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks.
You're very welcome. So it's now 11:54. We're winding down. I'm giving a talk at 1:15, so I'm going to cut it off at 12. Is there anything else that anybody wants to know? No one wants to know anything. Oh my God. All right, Barry.
So this is great, Stanley, but a question about RootStack. How would you suggest figuring out a way to participate in it when there are so many different speakers? And last time I looked, there was no list yet of ordinary speakers.
I am not an expert in RootStack. The only thing I know is I got paid probably $75 or something like that to create this video. I also, and Alan Greenberg also have volunteered to participate in the chat room on any topic, you know, relating to Jewish genealogy. And that's about as much as I know. I know that there are countless number of lectures. I believe that you can probably search by topic. So that's
last time I looked, which was last week, there was no list of presentations. I've attended RootStack 3 times, the first one, the third one, and the one last year. and it's an overwhelming experience, whatever format it is.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
okay.
Good luck. If you learn anything, tell me. Okay. So if there's no more questions, folks, we'll wrap up and thank you very much for attending. And we'll see you all again soon. I hope. Be well. Put up your hand if you've had if you've had your pandemic special treatment. If you've been inoculated. Oh, I can see the Israelis as usual. And Barry, you in Hamilton. Audrey, where are you?
I'm in North Miami Beach, Florida.
Oh, all the special people. But I can tell you that they announced, I guess yesterday, the day before, that the 80 plus are due what in 2-3 weeks, Gary? I think something like that. So we're very, very thankful for that. And I just managed to qualify by 7 years.
One reason to be thankful to be over 80.
Yeah, there has to be some value in that. Okay, folks, you be well, and we'll see you all again soon.